The knock rattled the whole door frame. 3 slow, deliberate thuds that sounded like a judge's gavel. My bones still hummed with the power that had incinerated my tormentors, but a chill crawled up my spine all the same. I drifted to the living room window, peeled back the curtain, and stared into the moon-washed yard. 5 figures waited on the gravel walkway, cloaked in night-coloured shawls. The porch light etched their faces in pale gold. Women of different ages, eyes sharp as obsidian arrowheads, braids threaded with raven feathers and copper beads. The one in front raised her hand and spoke a single word I felt more than heard. It vibrated through the glass, through my teeth, through the pulse of power caged beneath my skin. Enough. I staggered back. The spark Kiona had gifted me flared, eager to defend, but something in those women's stillness, in the solemn tilt of their chins, warned me I was no longer the apex predator. I threw the deadbolt and shoved the door with my mind, trying to slam it into their faces. The wood barely twitched. Invisible pressure held it steady, as if a mountain leaned against the hinges. The leader, I would later learn her name was Lu Yu, called through the door in accented English. "You have spilled too much blood, little star. Come out, walk the hard path, or be dragged." Anger flooded me. I flung every scrap of telekinetic strength forward. The front door tore off its hinges and sailed over their heads, smashing against the rusted mailbox. Dust spiraled in the porch light. For a heartbeat, I felt triumphant. Then the night itself clenched around me. Air thickened into bands of iron. I couldn't move my arms. My lungs fought for breath. The 5 stepped inside the threshold as one, bare feet whispering on splintered boards. Lu Yu traced a sigil in midair. Lines of blue-white fire wove into a net and dropped over me. My powers fizzled like wet matches. The women lifted me effortlessly, bound wrists and ankles with cord that stank of sage and something older, and carried me into the waiting van. The ride lasted hours. Dawn ghosted across the sky by the time we bumped onto a dirt road leading to the reservation. They unloaded me beside a circular adobe building. A kiva sunk half below ground, roof open to the paling stars. Smoke coiled from a central pit. The scent was bitter, medicinal. Inside, they propped me against a stone pillar. Lu Yu and another elder, Ashki, drew chalky symbols on my forehead and sternum. Each stroke felt like a thorn burrowing under skin. Power drained away, leaking through those marks until my limbs trembled with ordinary weakness. I wanted to scream, but my throat was parched and rope cut into my shoulders. "We do not wish to destroy you," Ashki said, voice cracked with age. "But the balance you shattered must be mended. We will call the spark back into the earth." I spat blood at her feet. "Try." They began a low chant. The room throbbed. The fire pit roared higher, throwing frantic shadows. As their song rose, a pulling sensation gnawed at my chest, like hooks digging into muscle, yanking upward. Panic eclipsed pain. I lashed out, not with strength. They'd bled that from me, but with rage. The pillar behind me cracked. Dust rained. One rope snapped. Sensation flooded my left arm. I flung the loose limb toward a nearby cauldron. It toppled, spilling scalding brew across the dirt. Steam erupted, cloaking the kiva. I hurled myself sideways, shoulder-checking Ashki. Her frail ribs folded with a muffled crunch. She crumpled, wheezing. Lu Yu spun, hands weaving sigils, but I seized a splintered beam with my mind, a flicker of power still mine, and rammed it through her thigh. She screamed, buckled, and the chant shattered into chaos. 2 down. The remaining 3 witches surged forward. Even wounded, their combined power slammed me into the floor. The earth itself answered their call, Roots snaked up, binding wrists and ankles anew. Someone struck the back of my skull with a stone bowl. Darkness swallowed the world. I surfaced to muffled conversation. I lay inside a canvas-walled hogan, wrists shackled with braided rawhide, soaked in some pungent resin. Every breath tasted of smoke and dirt. Outside, the surviving witches debated my fate, strip my powers and exile me, or, the harsher voice insisted, end me before I burned more lives to ash. Night deepened. Coyotes yipped beyond the ridge. I flexed my fingers, found the faintest ember of power hiding in my blood. The witch's wards muzzled it, but anger stoked the ember. I pictured the rawhide unraveling molecule by molecule, sinew splitting, fibers loosening. Minutes crawled, sweat soaked my collar. With a soft pop, the right shackle parted. I freed my left hand, then slipped the ankle bonds. The guard, a young witch named Sani, dozed by the door. I crept behind her and wrapped the rawhide cord around her neck. She woke, eyes wide, but I twisted hard. Cartilage snapped. She sagged, dead weight in my arms. The other two witches kept vigil at the central fire circle. I padded across hard-packed earth, silent as hunger. A rusty axe leaned against a woodpile. I lifted it, felt its heft sing through my arms, and stepped into the firelight. They saw me too late. The first witch, Nita, raised her hands, sparks already dancing between her fingers. I sent the axe spinning, the blade buried in her sternum with a dull thunk. Blood sprayed across the flames, hissing where it hit embers. She dropped without a sound. The last witch, Alawa, screamed my name, a curse, a plea, and hurled a spear of blue fire. I caught it midair, redirecting the bolt back into her chest. Light blossomed through her rib cage, and she disintegrated in a burst of cinders that whirled upward like malignant snow. 5 down. Fury blazed brighter than the moon as I strode through sleeping rows of houses. Adults spilled into doorways, drawn by the noise. They saw the firelight behind me, the blood on my hands, and realized the circle of the dawn was gone. Cries rose, fear, grief, anger, but I heard only the roar of power returning, unshackled. Someone fired a shotgun. Pellets ripped across my shoulder, tearing flesh. Pain sharpened my focus. I seized the shooter, a broad-shouldered man in jeans, with an invisible fist, and hurled him against a water tower. Bone met steel. He slid down, leaving a crimson smear. I reached into the tower supports, twisted the bolts. The structure groaned, toppled, and crashed onto a line of pickups where armed men had taken cover. Metal crumpled like paper, fuel tanks erupted, and fire washed across the dirt road. I turned my palms outward, fanning the flames. Wind answered, whipping tongues of fire from roof to roof. Cedar beams popped, tar shingles liquefied. I walked through the inferno, untouchable at its center, the heat singing my hair into a crackling halo. Voices rose. Orders shouted in English and Diné. A handful of brave souls rushed me with axes and rifles. I swept my arm. A wave of kinetic force pulped them against adobe walls. Smoke and screams curled together, drifting into the dawn-grey sky. When I reached the medicine lodge, the heart of the reservation, I paused only long enough to yank the support posts outward. The roof imploded, burying sacred drums and prayer bundles beneath flaming debris. The ground trembled, as if mourning. By the time first light touched the horizon, half the settlement was a scorched skeleton. Sirens keened in the distance, tribal police, county deputies, maybe even state troopers. I stood at the crossroads, blood drying on my arms, embers swirling around my ankles like fireflies gone rabid. 3 cruisers fishtailed to a stop. Doors flew open. Officers leveled shotguns and AR-15s, their faces a blend of horror and grim resolve. Red and blue strobes painted the smoke in sick carnival colors. "Hands where we can see them!" a deputy bellowed through a bullhorn. "Step away from the civilians!" I laughed. A ragged, joyous sound. Civilians. I'd transcended that label the moment Kiona's spark ignited inside me. I lifted both arms, palms up, and felt the air buckle. Gravel churned beneath the closest cruiser. The vehicle shuddered, rose 6 inches, tires spinning uselessly. Officers scrambled back, eyes huge. I clenched my fist. The cruiser folded in the middle like a cheap toy, windshield spiderwebbing, siren dying in a garbled wail. "Fire!" someone screamed. Muzzle flashes blossomed. Bullets tore into me. Shoulder, abdomen, thigh, each impact a sledgehammer. I staggered but did not fall. Blood poured, hot and slick, but the spark inside flared brighter, knitting flesh as fast as it shredded. I thrust my right hand toward the firing line. The front deputy flew backward, limbs pinwheeling, and crashed through a squad car windshield. Another round of gunfire stitched across my ribs. I tasted copper, spat. A shotgun slug caught me square in the sternum. Breath whooshed out. Darkness flickered at the edges of vision. I willed the shooter's weapon to twist. The barrel bent like taffy. He stared, paralyzed, finger still on the trigger. I stepped forward. My left leg buckled. Bone shattered. I forced weight onto it anyway, raised both arms, and gathered every last thread of power. The air shimmered, thick with ozone. Sirens wailed, radios crackled, someone shouted for backup. "Drop her!" the sheriff yelled. A wall of bullets met my charge. One found my neck, another punched through my left eye, detonating vision into red static. The gathered power shattered, spilling uselessly into the dawn. My knees hit gravel. Cold seeped through me, washing away the fire. I reached out, trying to grasp the world one more time, but my fingers closed on empty air. I pitched forward, face to the ground, and the sunrise I'd fought so hard to see faded to black.